The public can also access this meeting via WebEx technology. We will hear public comments in person and virtually. Meetings are also broadcast live on BCAT, which is Burlington Cable Access TV. The video and audio recordings are being made. This meeting is being held in person at the school committee room at the Burlington Public Schools Central Office. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The Burlington Equity Statement is educational equity means that every child belongs and receives whatever support he, she, they need to develop their full academic, emotional, and social potential to learn and thrive every day. This begins with kindness and valuing the humanity of every individual. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The next item is approval of the warrant. We have just one to do tonight, I think. The warrant from January 20th, for tonight, for January 23rd. Yes.
Second.
Okay. One of our members, Mr. Brooks, is online, so we'll do roll call votes. Ms. Monaco? Aye. Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Massardo?
Aye.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That's 5-0-0. We also are looking for the approval of the meeting minutes from January 9th.
So moved.
Second.
And Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Massardo?
Aye.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. That's 5-0-0. The next item is not listed on the agenda, but tonight we are so fortunate to have the Burlington High School Poet Laureate with us tonight. Would you please come up and introduce yourself? Dr. Conti, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Of course, this is one of my favorite school committee meetings, not to take anything away from all of you, mind you, but being joined by our poet laureate is phenomenal. You all heard, I think, Matt Shannon talk about Poetry Out Loud. It's a longstanding tradition. The English department does a fantastic job, and students recite poems in front of their classmates at the end. And again, Therese Kaczynski was our poet laureate, so she's here to do a recitation. Therese, you're joined by two special people in the back, is that correct?
Yes, my parents.
So,
Yeah.
Hi parents, I hope maybe you have a poet in the family, so so that's just awesome. So please take your time, and again, we're just excited to hear your voice.
Thank you. Okay. My poem is Y2K by Therese Lloyd. When I was in despair, the dark days when I actually used such terms, I noticed the behavior of animals. Sleep when tired, eat when hungry. And that made a lot of sense to me. And yet, I felt different. I felt my humanness too much. No fly ever wonders whether it should make lots and lots of maggots. It gives birth on a mound of cat food or inside the rubbish bin. As far as I know, it's not worried about overpopulation or what sort of environment its kids will grow up in. My humanness sees me at an art gallery, watching others, watching walls. My humanness gives me dark thoughts of cruel behavior. You were in the States, a visa glitch, and there you remain. Like Star Trek, I talk to you on a screen, your face half a second out of sync with your speech. I'm in the future. My Tuesday is already over, and I want to tell you all about it to prove my superiority. that lovely conceit of time that saw people travel from all over the world to be there for the first sunrise of the new millennium. Remember how we all thought that the sewer pipes would burst and the criminals would escape or something like that? Y2K packs into every household because no one knew for certain what the numbers 2, 0, 0, 0 really meant. Somewhere, people, important people, cowered in bunkers, fearing the worst. That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Again, outstanding. What happens from here? Did you have to add a third poem to go to regional or state competition?
Yes, so I have, I think maybe a district before state competition, but I have to memorize another poem before then.
Really?
Yes.
Have you chosen it yet?
I have a poem in mind, but I still need to memorize it and kind of work on it a lot more.
What goes into that for you? Does it need to mean something? Is it, how do you choose the poem that you want to recite?
Well, the first one, I liked how it wasn't, too old. It was kind of relevant. And Y2K always was really interesting to me, like in general. So that part went into the decision making for the first one. For my second poem, it also was very interesting, although it did need to be from the 19th century, which was definitely cool. In the third poem, I can choose, I get another one, like whatever poem I want. So that will definitely be a poem that I really like and I relate to.
That's great. And I always found it sometimes easier to speak in front of strangers than people I know. How was it to sort of recite in front of your classmates? Was it nerve-wracking, exciting? Tell me about that.
It was scary. I've never really done anything like that where I go up in front of everyone and I need to recite my poem. But it got easier from like going to reciting it in class to going and reciting it in front of a few classes to everyone at the assembly.
Are you available for Maytown meeting? I think
No,
you
seriously.
could present our budget probably better than me, so that would be great. So so congratulations. It's again, Teresa will be representing the district in regional competitions and hopefully just continuing to do take and it takes an incredible effort to, I think, memorize and it takes an incredible effort, obviously, to memorize and to recite poems with such meaning. So, and it's, I'm often just, again, continue to be amazed at what our students can do and just seeing that, just really impressed. So, Therese, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Love to get a picture after the
Yeah,
school committee.
I just want to know if anyone has
com-
comments they want to make. Ms. Bond?
I was just going to say, I lived through that and recalled all the craziness that went on, and you brought that all back with your reciting of that, so thank you.
Ms. Massardo? Did you want
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. I was in high school in 1999, so I vividly remember it. But you did a great job and just such passion, so thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Ms. Monaco?
I just want to say that your presentation is fantastic. It could have been, the poem was great, but it could have been any poem. The way you present it is just really great.
Yeah. Thank you. There is a lot of work that goes into kind of memorizing the poems and all of the other. It's like a really cool thing that we have here. That like other students were also so good at reciting their poems, and they really take the time and kind of understand the poems that they're reciting, which I think is really cool.
Mr. Brooks, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just wanted to echo the committee's comments. Excellent work and best of luck as you move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to what everyone said, but congratulations. I also think that the other students, because they've been through it, are a real appreciative audience, and you really shone, and that's how you ended up being the poet laureate. So thank you, congratulations. And would you and your parents like to be in a picture with the school committee?
Yeah, sure.
All right, good. Yeah. All right, before we go on to the next item, I realized that I did not announce the meeting contact information. So if somebody is interested in joining this meeting remotely, the meeting number is 2337-633-3070, and the meeting password is Tuesday. Sorry about that. Is there anyone else here for public participation tonight in the audience? I recognize all of you. And online, is there anyone? No. All right, so now we go on to our information and reports. Our student rep, Mr. Shannon, did you get a report from him, Dr. Conti?
Madam Chair, I did not.
Okay, all right, I know he's been busy. The high school students had midterms last week, so I hope that went well. Are there any subcommittee reports tonight from anybody? Okay. And they got a no from Mr. Ways and Means, no report tonight, Mr. Moran just said. Looking forward to the budget season. I like that. Good. So the next item, are there any other announcements that anyone has tonight? All right. So moving on to, oh, that's where we had the poet laureate down there. I didn't realize okay, we got you early. So now the program of studies. So Dr. Conti, would you like to take that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all had a first reading, and I believe there were some questions given to Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Adubato that were addressed. So with that, it's recommended the committee approve the program of studies, again, as a second reading, as presented and as amended by the questions of the school committee.
All right.
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion on the high school program of studies? Seeing none, Ms. Monaco,
Aye.
Ms. Bond,
Aye.
Ms. Massardo,
Aye.
Mr. Brooks,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That's 5-0-0. Thank you. Now we'll have the assistant superintendent's report.
Thank you
Dr.
very
Chen,
much.
thank you.
Yes.
Mhm.
So first of all, I'd like to thank Rosemary D'Souza and also Dr. Altman. 31 families were served with the Alliance Clinic from both Woburn and Burlington, and had a really fun time last night attending both Fox Hill and also Memorial's Math Night, and I know Melissa was also there as well too. I want to thank Aaron Zingarelli and also Jamie Kelly, the math specialist, and also Marie Murray and Caitlin Elgert, and also Carrie Fortunato for putting that together. There's going to be more family math nights. Again, it was very well attended. A lot of math games, a lot of great stuff going on there. Pine Glen will be on January 29th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Francis Wyman will be on January 30th from 6 to 7:30 p.m., so we hope to see as many parents as possible. This is going to be coming up very sometime soon. We're going to have flyers. On February 29th, the Director of Health and Physical Education, she is going to be holding a parents' night at Francis Wyman from 6 to 8 p.m. to go over what students will be learning for grade 4 and grade 5 and the human sexuality curriculum. She's going to be going over the puberty lesson. She'll be sharing that with parents. I invite a lot of parents to attend that. I'll be there. Amy Doty will also be there, as well as our nurse leader, Barbara Conley. On January 25th, we're going to have the School Wellness Committee from 3:30 to 5 p.m. A reminder that this Saturday, on January 27th, the Indian Association of Greater Boston is going to be hosting the Republic Day. It will be here at Burlington High School. And just to let you know where we are, we're looking in for putting in for our second-year teachers the opportunity not only to take the differentiation class, that is the class through Rebus, but also an ideas course. And that is a course on multiculturalism and taking a look at culturally relevant practices, anti-racist curriculum, so that shall be exciting as well too, to take a look at that. And also lastly, just to want a quick announcement that the math departments, both at the middle school and also the high school, have been working on the future grade 9 math placement guidelines, and that will be coming out forth soon. We're going to be using probably the iReady diagnostic test. And then for those folks who are also going to be skipping geometry, they will need to also take the final exam of the Algebra 1. So that will be another piece of data. There will also be parent opt-out letters so parents can also choose. But we wanted to give parents more information so that everyone has the best choices possible, the most information. That's it.
Dr. Chen, I know you mentioned the parent math nights. I think I was eavesdropping on one of your meetings. Ms. Fortunato had put together a math competition
Yes.
prior to COVID, and we had to sort of stop it. She's going to be reinstituting that, and is that correct?
That is correct. That's Math Olympia.
Okay.
And that's going to be held on, there's one night, I should have the date on that, but that's going to be held, I think, sometime in March is going to be the competition. But if it's not in March, I'll get you the dates. But yes, we're planning for that, and it's going to be, yes, that is coming. And we anticipate about 25 or 26 districts participating in that. So that's going to be very exciting.
So again, that's, again, a lot of work on our staff's part, and they, looking forward to reinstituting that again. And I think there'll be a common theme tonight as we talk about many of the practices that we had prior to COVID that we had to end now we're sort of bringing back. So, but I think that was I'm happy the math night was well attended, and we typically get lots of parents very interested in participating in those curricular events. Even when we did the computer science and the digital literacy event, I think we had hundreds of parents there, so we're going to continue to do that work.
And I can also tell you, I'll get you the date the next time, just 'cause I just want to make sure that I give you the right date. But I know that in talking to Dennis Villano, that he's also planning something to do as well, too. He is planning a computer literacy night as well, too, and it's just going to be as interactive. So this is just exciting. I mean, like, I'm sure you can speak to it as well, Melissa, like what you saw. I just saw a lot of parents engaged. I saw parents practicing math. I love the posters that talked about how it's important to know about how to think about math and not that it's about memorization. So there was just a lot of reminders and fun ways to do math bingo, and I saw a lot of parents fully engaged.
Yeah,
Ms.
it was
Basardo?
it was a great night. I was remarking, Mrs. Concession is here too. It was a great way to get parents involved. I think it's a way that parents like to be involved. We got to go into the school. We got to meet teachers that weren't our child's classroom teacher, so I think that's community building, right? Like my son's in 2nd grade, so I could meet 3rd, 4th grade teachers. My younger son came with us. They had estimating in the hallway, so how many grams is in this jug, how many blocks are in this. So it was a lot of different, especially as parents who the math strategies now are not the math strategies that I grew up with. So being able to implement them a little bit in practice was fun, and my kids were thrilled to take home a dice. So, you know, any little bit counts. So I would love to see more of these, and we'll definitely attend.
Great. Is that got more on that? No? Any other comments? Okay. So the next item is the superintendent's mid-cycle review, and most of you are probably familiar at the end of the year when we do Dr. Conti's evaluation. We have a whole scripted procedure, but we also do some mid-year review, and Dr. Conti usually says it's all of his staff, and he's right, that are accomplishing things. But tonight he's got a presentation for us that, you know, we've been asking, I think, as a committee for more, you know, data, more evidence, what's going on, and he's got this plan to present. And then after you present, then people will be able to ask questions, right? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have some folks in the back who I'd like to actually come up. Ms. Ciccolini, Ms. Lamprey, Ms. Concession, pull up a chair, please. They know exactly. They're going to get quizzed. They're fine. The central office team is largely here. Nicole is participating online, and I just couldn't be prouder of the team that's here and all that they accomplished. So, Ms. Simon is correct. Any superintendent acknowledgement is really the recognition of the work of others, and this evening will be no difference. So I wanted to start by expressing gratitude for the entire central office team, and really make sure that again, Ms. Miliano is a part of that team, but she's not feeling well, and I can never thank Terry O'Mara enough for all the work that she does, right? So she'll go from there. So what you have in front of you is really just a chart, and it's a chart that is directly linked to the Planning for Success document, which is really what has been driving us. Some of the language that we use has changed over time, so we can look at that. There are 3 categories: met, I think, not met, and in progress. So and so we're trying to make sure that either if something's not met, that we either have changed directions or haven't used it, or hopefully that you see as many things are in progress. When it is possible, we are providing measurements, but some of these things I can't tell you how far in progress we are. I guess I could estimate. But we can certainly talk about that moving forward. But I do think the district has accomplished quite a bit, and want to just make sure I thank Dr. Chen for all that she's contributed. It feels to me like she's been in Burlington for much longer than the 5 or 6 months that she's been here, and so she's really jumped in with both feet and some bad jokes. So thank you, Dr. Chen. So the Planning for Success document is organized into 3 areas: learning, equity, and thriving. Those should be very familiar to you. Also, to that we've added facilities and finance, because those are areas that that you know that we spent a lot of time on, and we want to make sure that we are making progress in. And there is some overlap because not everything is perfectly partitioned, but we will sort of talk about when there's overlap, and I think you'll begin to see some patterns. So under learning, we really start with a viable curriculum, and I think one of the things that we are really committed to, that I think you've got regularly in Dr. Chen's updates, is that she's putting together a curriculum review process that is going to be independent of subjects. So we've spent a lot of time as a team talking about what that process is, and we're calling it, we're going to really be focusing on not only the curriculum or the content of the curriculum, but then we call it our core experience for students. So I think that is work that's in progress, but you often hear, again, Dr. Chen speaking about mathematics, and then our goal is to have literacy or reading be the next subject area that we follow, again, in that process. I'm going to try to combine where I can, because obviously we don't have 14 hours to go through a lot of this stuff. But getting feedback from graduates is something that's important. Again, with COVID, we had to step away from some of our regular practices. The National Clearinghouse is a group that we partner with that surveys students who graduate high school. We get data about graduation rate, who is completing, how long they're taking to complete, because completion is a real problem nationally. And I think nationally about 50% of freshmen actually discontinue their college education, and the majority of college students now take more than 4 years to graduate. So I think that's important information as we talk to families about planning. And then we also are looking at doing more surveys. Again, we have the survey that you'll hear a lot about, our school climate survey, but we're also looking to make sure that we are asking seniors about their experience so that we can improve that experience moving forward. Threes, where we're talking about a multi-tiered framework for instruction, especially in literacy and mathematics at the elementary level. We really had to step away from best practice during COVID because we had to keep students separate. So a lot of our instructional best practices had to be reinstituted 2 years ago, and we feel like we're just sort of getting back to stride this year. And so I'm much more confident that we're looking at elementary schedules, that we are targeting instruction where students need to be. And again, this isn't saying there's one curriculum or one program. This is about the framework of knowing all kids as learners and making sure all students are making progress. That's really what the multi-tiered system is about. And again, I think that recovering from that, just because it takes a lot of coordination, and the example I give is during COVID, we had to isolate a group of students with an individual teacher, and we had to be very careful about that. What we feel works best is if we have a team of teachers, a group of teachers working with a group of students, and that whole team is responsible for the progress of all those students. It allows us to customize that better, and putting that framework in place is really important, and that's what we had to step away from. And so I think some of the profound effects of COVID were certainly on students who weren't in school and some of the other individual impacts that people talk about. But I think collaboration really suffered as well in schools, and reestablishing that collaboration has taken some time. So that's really what the multi-tiered system is all about. And we've added other aspects of that. So again, I'm going to keep mentioning the team in the room. And Ms. Conceition has expanded our social emotional screener when it's been allowed. So we had an elementary version, right? We had some high school, and now we're looking at covering in the middle school, and looking at making sure we're getting data on students on their academic progress as well as their social emotional growth. So I think that's something that we've done, which has been great. The DLCS standards, digital literacy, computer science, it's something I'm particularly engaged in and proud of. I think our district has added has a pre-K to 12 computer science experience for all students. Our computer science team, with Dennis Villano overseeing that team, the elementary group presented at MassQ, and they presented our pre-K to 5 computer science curriculum, and the room was full. People are really interested. I know they're sharing that curriculum all across the state. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to see growing demand for computer science and computer science related classes at the high school, and there's evidence of that as well moving forward, and that's under 4C. Shireen Terrell has been here and spoken to the committee. She was awarded a National Science Foundation grant, I think 3 years ago, really focusing on developing 3 courses at the high school. Civics and Data is one of those courses, and that course is in place. Again, Todd Witten teaches that course. And data visualization, so she's also working with some art teachers about looking at data in terms of the data visualization course, and Python and data. So again, while maybe not a computer science direct course, computer science is certainly influenced in those courses, and we are looking to expand opportunities. And as we continually try to do, all 3 of those courses are connected to Bunker Hill Community College, and they are eligible for dual enrollment credit.
And just 2 things I want to add to what Dr. Conti has said is that, one, we're finalizing the curriculum that Dennis Villano is working on. That is the K through 8 computer science alignment. That document's going to be made it's going to be made public sooner than later. And then the other thing is just a reminder that Commissioner Jeff Riley actually came out here to see our what we were doing with our civics and data, the data visualization. He was very impressed with our flipped externship model.
So again, the computer science, digital literacy gets does get our does get attention from us, but I also think it's an important part of making our curricular experience for students more relevant. We always say it's going to be it's a new literacy that students need to have. The use of data is something we're trying to continually expand. We've expanded our screening tools into the middle school this year. We mentioned the social emotional one. We also are using math and reading, so we've expanded our elementary screening tools already largely into the middle school. And we're also organizing that data, better using a dashboard tool, Open Architects, that is rolling out to teachers. We started rolling out to teachers in January with our Professional Development Day. So again, that is certainly, the tool has been implemented, but the rollout to staff has been in progress. And what's great is we're getting feedback from teachers how to make that tool even more useful for them. So I think when we get that feedback, it will continue to do that. Engaging families in terms of the practices and creating active participants. Ms. Massardo mentioned the curriculum night. I don't think there's any better way of doing that. And we had to put our curriculum nights on hold again for several years, and now we're reinstituting those. Also looking at our second year of our school climate survey, getting that data, asking parents to really give us good feedback in terms of aspects of their child's experience here. And then Parent Square, our messaging service you're going to hear about quite frequently. And also Ms. Lamprey has been really instrumental in pushing forward a live translation service called Lexikeet. And so Lexikeet allows parents who need translations to attend parent conferences, math nights, everything else like that, where they can come in and get a live translator. And Parent Square allows messages, the computer-generated messages, to be translated into the language that the family registers in with the device. So I think that was an important way for us to reach out to more families. And I did collect some data on Parent Square just before the meeting tonight. Ms. Simon, that's what I was calculating. So there's been about 3,241 messages sent out through Parent Square across the 6 schools in the preschool and the central office. So the central office is by far the lags behind everyone else. We mostly just do weather calls, but there's been hundreds of messages that have gone out to families, and Parent Square itself says we're reaching 99.7% of the families who we have registered. So I think we're getting a much higher percentage of connection than we did with our prior messaging system that didn't translate and wasn't as dynamic. So again, parents are getting texts, emails, and voicemail if that's what we choose to do.
Is it 99% of people who are registered or 99% of everyone?
99% of everyone who's in Aspen, because that's what we're getting. So we're hoping it's everyone who's registered.
Okay.
Whether they're paying attention to the message, I can't say that. But we
Okay.
can also tell who's downloading it and that they do have access to it. And I think anecdotally, because our staff are asking, Ms. Lamprey, you would say that families are getting messages better than they have in the past. And I think our attendance is going up with evenings and everything else. You can talk. It's not that formal.
And we can see Ms. Lamprey shaking her head yes to that.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Our families actually we are actually expanding it as well because we have community members involved in some of our adult ESL classes. And just last night we were doing a pilot run of that because they also allow us to add community members in so that it then expands our audience as well.
So again, our communication is, we've really tried to put a lot of attention there, and communicating with all families is certainly an important part of learning, but also is connected to equity and thriving as well. So it's really hard for us to separate some of this stuff. I want to just take a break and give you another voice to listen to under 7, curriculum review pilot adoption process. I know that in our notes that Dr. Chen has been working with Dr. Thunder, and maybe again, Lisa, you've reviewed the process with the school committee before, but again, that work is continuing, and the whole point is to replicate that process as we move forward.
And as Dr. Conti and I have shared with you, it's a multi-year process, because if you're going to do a curriculum review the right way, you can't just shove a curriculum down people's throats. Okay, that's just to put it a little bluntly. But I think one of the things that why it's successful thus far is because, number one, I've had the opportunity to really include teachers and some administrators on there. Really appreciative of the stipends that have been able to give to these folks, because it is year-long work. We're analyzing the data through Open Architect. I think one of the first things that we did is we needed to establish a common language. And so it's just very exciting to have people from Deborah Clark to Lisa, who's one of the preschool teachers there, all the way up to high school teachers as well, too. So everyone's taking a look at the data. We are assigned data homework. There's a data protocol that we're looking at, and we're looking at finding out where the inequities are. So we've started to talk about, what does tracking mean to you, right? Is there tracking that exists, right? Because we shouldn't be able to look at a child in the 3rd grade and be able to predict where his or her pathway should be. And if that is the case, then we need to take a look at our pathways. So I think year 1 is really taking a look, analyzing the data, taking a look at, do we have multiple pathways for all children pre-K through 12? That's year 1. And then year 2 is really having a deep understanding of the understanding by design process, which is taking a look at our power standards, for instance, taking a look at how do we deliver curriculum, our assessments, and then how do we teach, and really teaching people through the Wiggins and McTighe way how to design and take a look at curriculum. And so we're taking a look at curriculum pre-K through 12. And then year 3 is then taking a look at our data protocol, our analysis, and taking a look at what are the models and organizations in our structure to increase the capacity of our learning. And so this is going to be an ongoing process. Now, during that time, we also have short-term goals. One of the short-term goals that we're examining is right now the Algebra 1 placement, making sure, for instance, that children are placed appropriately. So and if they are going to skip geometry, making sure that there is an assessment that provides us with the most accurate piece of data so that parents and students and teachers in the end can make the best judgment possible. Now, there is always the opt-out option, right? But we want to give everyone the right tools. And so that's what we're working on in year 1. And I can honestly say that the folks that are on that have really experienced, it's fun. And they've really enjoyed the process. And then we're going to see Dr. Thunder. She's going to come face-to-face to us in March. She's going to take a look and do some observations. And then from there, she's going to be able to provide us with a full report of what she has seen. And that will be presented to school committee, and it will be made public to the public. And that is the process that we wish to emulate with reading. And then we're going to go into science. And I think our 4th subject is going to be social studies.
Again, just wrapping up learning from the central office perspective or from our plan, and it's sort of much more detail from here, but I think one thing I would just like to comment on, because I think it's been something noticed by the committee, is Dr. Chen with Ms. Conceition, Ms. Lamprey, and Ms. Ciccolini have really, I think, done a great job of organizing professional development and getting feedback. So I think we are still responding this year without being as proactive as we'd like. I think that the feedback that we're getting is going to allow us to put together a very proactive schedule for next year. And I think Lisa is working on that as a priority. And we did get feedback from our January 2nd PD, so it's something that we do ask for. The response rate wasn't as high as we'd like, but I do think once people realize that we're using the feedback, that we'll see more. So the feedback varied from, we needed more vegetarian lunch options, and we needed a policeman at Cambridge Street because traffic was backed up. And again, those are easy fixes, to the content of the PD. But I think a lot of people really felt like the PD was relevant. So again,
Yeah.
Dr. Chen, you asked, I think, very good questions.
I think that what we got and we gleaned, and then I sent out, I did a full report, and then I sent out an executive summary to the staff. And the feedback I got from the staff is they were really appreciative of the transparency, because I put on there our glows and I put on there our grows. And definitely the thing that they really enjoyed, and I thank Christina Ciccolini for this as well too, is that we offered a very robust PD for our instructional assistants, and they really enjoyed being a part of that process. They also really liked how we broke it up into different sections. So really want to thank everyone on the team, and also Jose de Sousa and his team for making sure that the technology was intact during that time. Robin also, she led an open architect. It was more so on their end, but what she's also done as a follow-up is she's gone individually to each of the schools to really show what open architect can do. But I think what people liked is like the opportunity to sign up for sessions that were relevant for them. So there was a general session in the morning that Eric and I explained why we were doing the why and where we're headed. And we got a lot of responses back that they felt that that was very relevant PD, and the timing was nice to pull us all back together, pre-K through 12, to deliver a message of why we're doing this and where we're headed next. They really like that, as opposed to doing it just one time a year. So that's something that we're going to move forward to do. And then they really liked the breakdown of the day of the choices that they got. We got more feedback that more people would like choices. So moving forward, when we do Tier 1 instruction next year, we're going to have a generalized thing of understanding what Tier 1 is, and then we're going to break it down relevantly to the subject areas and to what people ask for. And that's going to be coming out through a survey that I'm going to be putting out, getting feedback from the teachers. And I think that the teachers really are starting to see that we're going to really take a look at their feedback. We're going to analyze it. We're going to give it back out to them. We're going to take some of the feedback that they gave to us, which was making sure that they really liked the coffee. So we're going to provide them with morning coffee. Yes, that will happen. Making sure that the lunch line, because it's important to feed people, make sure that the lunch lines are much smoother. Those are really quick fixes. And I think when people hear that we really want to pay attention to what people have to say and we value what they say, I think more people are definitely going to answer that response back. Ladies, do you want to say anything else about the PD? I think overall the feeling I got that was very relevant and it was helpful to folks. And they really liked knowing the IEP process. People like knowing about the elevation. They liked to know about the Wayfinder. And then they really, I want to give kudos to Patrick Lyons. He's done an outstanding job thus far in our police department. He also went over the first response and the protocol, because safety has always been embedded throughout this year, especially when we're coming back from COVID. The safety of people is what we care about the most. Number one, you got to have safe schools. But I think even though that was a little bit of a heavy topic, I think he did an excellent job, and he's had great follow-up, and people really appreciated having that presentation. Is there anything you wanted to add, ladies?
Ms. Ciccolini, besides the general PD, you also have very targeted groups with some specialized reading PD that's very expensive. So I know that's near and dear to some folks up here. So I know you have a cohort in Orton Gillingham, and then you're moving forward with some folks into, is it LIPS training? Am I getting that right? Linda Moodbal, sorry. That's LIPS, is that the same thing? So thank you for moving forward with that. And I know that's important. I want to move on to equity now. And again, I do thank you for your patience with listening to this. Just we have a wide variety of things to do. We did get an equity report finally that was shared publicly. We have been reviewing the report as a central office team with Dr. Chris Taylor from William James University. I think Dr. Taylor's sessions have been really professional development for all of us. So I think that's been very helpful. Our last session with Dr. Taylor is scheduled for February 12th. We're hoping at that time to finalize or agree on a job description that we feel will help move us forward. And we are planning on posting the DEI position before February break. So I think that's sort of the plan. We're trying to do it in a very thoughtful way, in a way that can be sustained over time, and then is supportive of the report that we waited for. And so I think that's going to be obviously important work. We will certainly involve people in the selection process, but I do think it was important for us to identify the job description and make sure that we are filling a need that the district has, that we sort of learned about through the equity report. So I know people have been very patient with that, but that is sort of the timeline and plan that we talked about in the fall that we are trying to maintain as we get through the year.
Before you move on, I see Mr. Brooks has his hand up. Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, just because we've got too far down the road, sorry to skip back to learning. I haven't had it for a little bit. Dr. Chen, as we go back through the district review of course and curriculum, you went and said that you were going to place social studies as the last curriculum to review, based on our MCAS scores. We're going to look at maybe reprioritizing that to see if our decision to take time for SEL was the only impact, or if there's other issues we need to address.
Dr. Chen?
Oh, did I not say, and I apologize if I wasn't.
It
I
said
had
math, and then I had said English, science, and then social studies.
Okay.
So, so what was the question, sir? I want to make sure I answer it, please.
Yeah, the list you give, was that a prioritized list, or are we looking at possibly prioritizing evaluation of the social studies program a little sooner based on our MCAS being below state level? And then acknowledging we made the decision, pull time off learning for SEL, but maybe trying to find out if it was simply that decision or if there's other curriculum issues that needed to be addressed. And possibly prioritizing that sooner than being the last curriculum to review.
Yeah, Mr. Brooks, I think when the subject that we talked about where we had bid below the state average was science, and I think that was we had limited some science instruction based on the SEL. So that's really why we prioritized the science over social studies. I think we were doing what you said, but I hope we didn't present that incorrectly when we did the MCAS. I remember science being was the one that was challenged. So
If I could also add, Dr. Conti, there is no MCAS social studies at this time. So, and you mentioned social studies, Mr. Brooks. So social studies is on the plan for the school district, but the science is on the MCAS, and that was the conversation we had, and that is in the list of after we finish the after the math and the literacy, then would be the science, is what I think Dr. Chen is saying. Does that make sense, Mr. Brooks?
And do you have any further questions? I just want to make sure that I answer it as thoroughly as I can, sir. Thank you, sir.
Also, what came out of the equity report is we talked about continuing to prioritize diversifying our staff, and the district is participating in the third cohort with the state of a teacher diversification project, and that includes a team from the district. We have a teacher, Ms. Shannon Janovitz. We have Joanne Faust from HR. We have a school committee member. Ms. Simon is participating. Lisa and myself, Dr. Chen and myself are also participating.
And also Principal Mark Sullivan from the high school.
Yeah, he's easy to overlook, so I apologize. I missed Mr. Sullivan. I apologize. And we're working with other districts. We have to put together a diversification plan, again, in partnership with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and that work is underway. So I oftentimes, again, understand the urgency that many different people feel, and sometimes what gets conveyed is we're not doing DEI work without a DEI labeled or articulated position, and I just don't subscribe to that. I think we are all doing equity work all the time, and that's really how it should be done. We can't rely on one person to do the equity work for us. I think that voice is incredibly important. I don't want to minimize it, but it's really the work of all of us to move equity work forward. So we are doing that, and again, just want to make sure I articulate our plan is to really try to develop a targeted job description that is in response to our report and our school climate survey, and then to post that job and to move forward prior to February break. So coming up. Again, and our school climate survey really allows us the granular look at who is, how people are responding to the district moving forward. One of the programs that we felt, at least I felt, had some inequities in how students were identified was BEAM, and we are phasing, obviously, BEAM out, and we are looking to make sure that enrichment is reaching all students at the middle school, and certainly Lisa's work in mathematics is going to make sure that students are challenged as we have moving forward, so in a much more equitable way. Again, we talked about professional development. We really don't need to spend more time on that. Again, I think we're going to see much more organization, much more feedback, and much more targeted PD even moving forward. Number 6 is something that we waited a long time for, which is the policy manual. So I do want to thank the committee for their work and getting that done. The manual is online. We have obviously a standing school committee subcommittee on policies, and hopefully that work will continue and the policy manual will be maintained moving forward. So that was the goal, and that did take quite a bit of work. Again, we talked about the curriculum work with Kateri Thunder, and then there was something that I had in my notes that is we were also surveying for our curriculum implementation. So Ms. Conceition, you're doing a survey on the Wayfinder pilot as well, so you're getting feedback from teachers. Is that feedback about the lessons itself or support that they need, or all of the above?
All of the above. All of the above. So we've done, we did a survey prior to implementing Wayfinder to assess kind of what they were looking for in a curriculum, what kind of skills they thought the students needed, what they wanted out of the curriculum. We've done an informal mid-year review during our professional development day of how are the lessons going, how are the activities going, what supports do you possibly need, are there any barriers you are encountering, and we'll do an end of the year survey for staff as well so that we can continuously improve and change things that need to be changed to make sure that it's a success for all.
The implementation of a unified SEL program was done sort of very competently and very quietly, and it is a significant implementation. It really focuses or gives all students important lessons in regards to how they treat each other, how they treat themselves. There's an anti-bullying component to it. And so parents have been asking for some of that content for a while, and that program is now being implemented kindergarten through grade 8. So it is, I think, a significant commitment of time and training. Is that correct? Pre-K. I just didn't want to leave. Oh, no. Again, Ms. Clark will be there. Pre-K through 8. So it's, so I do think sometimes we just gloss over that, we have an SEL curriculum, but there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into it and training. And I do think we need to get feedback from teachers, and we need to go back and look at our schedules. Obviously, that was some of the feedback we got from the school committee. But I don't want to just sort of say it like it's, we just took it off the shelf and sort of plugged it in. That's not what's happening. Moving on to Thriving, and I promise we're making progress. So I appreciate again you're hanging in there with us. The school climate survey has been distributed to principals. All principals will be sharing the results with their staff at faculty meetings. I think that I attended the instructional leadership team meeting today at the high school. They're scheduling it at future staff meetings at the high school, and they actually have, along with Mr. Sullivan, they're going to have some faculty leaders to also help present the data. So I think what was consistent through the equity report, at least what resonated with me, is, we can have the best policies in the state, but if those policies aren't being enacted at the school level, classroom level, then the kids aren't necessarily feeling the impact of those of our efforts. So we have to obviously continue. We have to continue our personal growth in that area, but we also have to make sure that students are feeling that impact. And I think the school climate survey amplified that student voice moving forward. So really happy that principals are taking that seriously and doing that moving forward. I think again, I think a incredible benefit of having a director of mental health and someone with that expertise and that focus, the community partnerships and opportunities for support of students who need mental health support have expanded greatly. So just in looking at my notes, and again, I'm reading this like it's simple, Ms. Conceition, I certainly don't want to discount the effort of you and certainly the counselors and everyone who worked for that, but we put it in, these are existing partnerships. So again, Wayfinder, we talked about pre-K through grade 8. I want to make sure I say that. Interface, which again has been around for several years. That's the referral service for mental health, and that's open to all Burlington residents. And then, Ms. Conceition, you track usage of that, and it is a well-utilized service. And that is
We just got the report, so for our mid-year, so in the town we had about 70 families serviced through Interface since from June to November. So it's a well-utilized service, and it ranges from very small children to people who get referred through the Council on Aging.
So again, Cartwheel Care, so that is a telehealth service, and again, you buy spots on that, and we have 100 spots. Is that correct?
Yep, it's a telehealth service for students in grades 3 through 12. We buy 100 slots. It offers evidence-based mental health treatment in multiple different languages. They have clinicians who speak Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, English on staff. It also offers a referral for what they call parent guidance. So above and beyond being able to provide students with individualized support, they also offer parent guidance sessions of how parents can work with their children who are dealing with some of these struggles. And you may have noticed through Parent Square, they also offer wonderful monthly webinars that actually have been very well attended by our Burlington families. We've had about 65 families attend the webinars, which is great for us.
And then Burlington Youth and Families has always been a wonderful partner. Christine Truhan, again, so want to make sure that I thank other town departments who are working with us. And then the Dr. Chen mentioned Rosemary D'Souza's effort, along with the City of Woburn, on the community clinic, which met last night. Again, servicing families that need health support and support with immunizations. The Brain Health Boot Camp, Chrissy.
Yeah. I wanted to go back and really thank Burlington Youth and Family Services. They generally in the past have serviced students and families grades age 8 and above. But this year, because of an emerging need we were seeing in an even younger population, our kindergarten, they've actually are doing a pilot with Burlington Public Schools to service much younger students and families, doing some more play-based therapy. So I just wanted to really a huge thank you to them, because that was something that they're taking on and seeing if they can expand their services to even younger students. We are also piloting something called Brain Health Boot Camp. In our high school, it is a mental health literacy program. It is available, and we're piloting through our health curriculum at the high school, but we also had all of our BHS staff complete a mental health literacy assessment during one of our professional development days to gain an understanding of kind of how the staff in the high school understand mental health stigma, how they understand signs and symptoms. So that was very interesting and exciting for us to participate in.
Thank you. And then, Christina, I know the work with McLean's has been going on for, 10 years now, closely, I think just about. So I know people have heard of McLean's, but would you explain some of what that partnership is, please?
So I'll defer to Chrissy.
Sure. So we have an ongoing partnership with McLean School Consultation Team. This year we're utilizing it in 3 separate groups with staff. So we have a K through 5, I apologize, a pre-K through 5 cohort of our school social workers, school psychologists. We then have a middle school cohort with our school counselors, school adjustment counselors, and school psychologists, and a high school cohort with school counselors, all of those people. And what it is it's a monthly opportunity for ongoing professional development. So we overview theories such as cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT. We are able to do case consultations, so we bring interesting or cases that we need a second set of eyes on. And it's been it's a wonderful opportunity for us to continue and learn on a monthly basis and work together collaboratively across the district to hear what's going on in different schools. So I think we're at least in year 10. So it's a really wonderful opportunity every single month for our staff.
And just to add to that, because this indicator also talks about physical health, really wanted to thank Susan Luminella and also the Department of Health, because they really have partnered with us this year when it comes to the delivery services of our vaccinations and working with our nurses. So just really want to give a kudos to the Department of Health and them reaching out and working with us hand in hand to ensure that all of our students receive the necessary vaccinations that are required.
Thank you. We are rounding the last bend here. So we've talked about some of the curriculum stuff. We don't need to do that again. But the educational evaluation, during COVID, there were individual agreements made with the teachers that if we sort of had to ask them to really step out of their comfort zone. So the evaluation process, the more formal evaluation process, was suspended during those years. We've really spent the last 2 years, but this year really intensely reinstituting the formal evaluation process. So if you're hearing things like teachers haven't been evaluated, I think there's some truth to that. We did step away from that during the remote instruction days and in the days of COVID, but certainly now we have been training. Just this morning, Dr. Chen and Dr. Lupini from Rebus Associates came in. We're doing discussing the evaluation process. We're making sure everyone has an assigned evaluator, that we're sticking to timelines, that we're looking at inter-rater reliability of assessments, evaluations, evidence. We talked about what makes an exemplary instructor today. Ms. Lamprey led that conversation, so thank you. There's been a tremendous amount of effort and energy put back into reestablishing teacher evaluation, because it's not a punitive process here. It's really a developmental process here, and making sure that those conversations can take place, and we have the staff to do that. So I want to, again, reassure the committee that the evaluation is being much more formalized and taking place, certainly as we're trying to model this evening as well. And that's really for every employee, from building principal down to our buildings and to our teachers. So again, a lot of effort moving forward with that. And again, Dr. Chen has done a fantastic job with that. So thank you. Again, as late as today. I think there was something about our technology infrastructure, which again, we work closely with the town on. I think that has been a successful partnership. Dr. Chen mentioned Jose D'Souza. He is the Director of Technology for both the town and schools. We keep him very busy, and he has helped us continue to move forward and to stay updated. We've talked about looking at, I think we talked with the committee about the consortium for protecting student identification that we work with now for applications. So that's important that we move forward in sort of protecting student information through apps. And Lauren Angelo has done a fantastic job maintaining, bringing our website into compliance with the Office of Civil Rights. It's been a Herculean task for her to do that. And again, I think we often take her efforts for granted. We just say, can you just throw this on the web? And no one knows how much effort it takes or what she does. It's sort of this magic thing. And she does it, again, without complaint. But I want to make sure I recognize that. But in our conversations here, there has been some dissatisfaction about the website, and we are really trying to improve the website, make it more accurate, and bring it into compliance all at the same time. And I think we're going to be using Parent Square, which is not only a messaging service, but is a web platform. So we're going to be migrating. We wanted to get the messaging service up and running first to reach families, but we're going to be migrating to the Parent Square website sort of now that the Parent Square messaging service is up and running. So a lot of work taking place for both accuracy improvements and also compliance in that area. Again, we talked about the multilingual platforms that we are currently doing. The collaborative relationships, I think we talked a lot about those in mental health. We talked about Burlington Youth and Families. But again, our work with the City of Woburn, I think, is also a collaboration. Our Burlington Community Response Team, the partnerships that we have with the Burlington Police, I think we've spent a lot of time training and reinstituting our safety protocols, our standard response protocols. Lisa mentioned the detective in charge of children, I guess, in the town, Patrick Lyons. I think he's done some sessions for all of staff that have been, the staff has really communicated that they was very well received, and he's done a phenomenal job, so want to make sure we thank him. And then just to sort of wrap up the thriving piece, we have really seen an expansion of our innovation pathways, and we had an innovation pathway in computer science, and you all have supported, and thank you, an innovation pathway now in business, and really looking at having students start their college journey early, get some exposure to internships, and the flipped internship that has been developed at the high school, really under the leadership of Shireen Terrell, is a model that other high schools are coming to observe. And I think it's just, we need to continue to take advantage of our geography and our closeness. Many members of this team went to the Keurig facility 2 weeks ago, and they were incredibly welcoming. The extended stay where some families are living is right across the street. Families are looking for potential some after-school care. Transportation is a problem, and they were very generous in terms of being open to the idea of having us utilize some of their cafeteria space as we would a school. So it's with those type of business partners, community partners. Again, that's what I think separates Burlington from many other communities. And so, again, I'm sure they're not listening, but I want to thank them for being such a great community.
You don't think they watch all of our
partner.
school committee meetings?
No, I don't. So I'll go from there. The other part of this are the finance and facilities. I think we are going to talk about, and Bob is here, we can talk about some of the facilities work that he is doing. But I do think Nicole, again, is not here. I think she's participating, I know she's participating remotely, but really looking at, again, continuing her work with the monthly reports to the committee, making sure the capital plan is updated annually and aligned, The grants management position, Kristen Fricky has been, I think, an incredible addition. I know Christina, with all of the work with the entitlement grant for special ed, what a great resource she's been with circuit breaker, transportation. So I want to thank her as a part of that team. We're working on online payment systems for BECC. We're working on a online management system for timesheets and leave forms, and I think that's something that we have to bring ourselves into the sort of the modern times with. And one thing that is a priority for us is a substitute teacher management system. So we still do it using the telephone, and we really need to make sure that we migrate into a sort of a computer-based system moving forward, just for more efficiencies. And again, Nicole is working with Joanne Faust on that. And again, the handbook is in progress, and Nicole is part of the policy review, of course. And I think Nicole is making sure that all of the business practices are following. She calls it the Business Officials International Meritorious Budget. There's some recognition for that, and I've been doing budgets here for quite a while. And last year to have our budget was not held, and I think that was really a tribute to the amount of information that was provided. Steve, the amount of time that your team put in, and again, I think the organization, Nicole's organization of the budget too. So that's incredible progress from 5 or 6 years ago when people were questioning the transparency of the budget and had some real concerns. So that's, again, Nicole's done a great job on that.
Okay, Mr. Moran, did you want to
Yeah, just
comment? Sure.
the addition of just having the monthly reports as well, those financial updates, those supplement the budget really well, and we appreciate that.
So again, I want to thank Nicole and her office and her team for doing that. Bob, you're right here, so I don't need to talk over you, but the implementation of, again, the food service program, I think has been something that has taken some time, but I think we've seen some decent feedback from, so I think that's been positive. It's certainly, I think, offered more variety. I think that looking at our facilities audit, again, we talked about the implementation of the composting program in the kitchens, and looking to expand that again with the high school is something that the committee wanted us to focus on. And then continuing to look at reducing carbon emissions as something where you've added no idling signs. I think there's you've participated in some of the green community work with DPW, and then the classroom environments are something that Bob has worked on with the Pine Glen project especially, and the committee knows that classroom environments have also come up as a subject of bargaining as well. So I do think there's some overlap there. So I'm going to give the committee a break from me speaking. Again, what I just want to reiterate is there's a tremendous amount going on, and the team of people here with Nicole and Robin and Terry are just producing a tremendous amount of work in progress. So I want to make sure I thank them for all of it, and I think we continue to make progress as a district. In addition to the planning for success, Dr. Chen started in Burlington with an entry plan, and there are components to our entry plan. It certainly won't take as long as I just babbled on with.
Excuse me, Dr. Conti.
Yes.
Where we've gotten to the end of this piece,
Sure.
and you're now introducing, we're going to be looking at Dr. Chen's entry plan. I just wanted to give the committee members an opportunity to ask you any questions so that we can sort of, while we're
Perfect.
talking about this. So I
Yep.
just want to take a breath.
Yep.
And I wanted to let the members see if they have, you can take a minute. That was a lot. And we thank you, and thank you all of you who are here online, and those of you who are homesick, I hope you get well soon. But are there people who would like to make comments or ask questions about what Dr. Conti just presented around this? Ms. Massardo?
One thing that I think we had talked about in the planning for success document initially was like a set of metrics that we report on. I remember, I don't know why attendance struck out to me, kind of like a scorecard, right? Like things we were tracking towards for the end of the year. I know you said there's like some numbers around here. Like I love the Parent Square, 99%. I think there's a few places where we could have kind of metrics, be it percentages or numbers of, I think we had asked like the percent of people trained on Orton Gillingham, like how that was tracking. So I don't need it tonight, but I'd love to see kind of the scorecard, even if it starts at like 10 metrics. I think attendance is kind of, I know I've been reading about that. That's obviously very important for the learning loss. Some of these communication numbers, I think they're sound great. So the more, like, to watch those go up, any of that scorecard, I think similar to the financial reports, like as we track those to the end of the year, I think would be really helpful. This all sounds great, though. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to comment, Dr. Conti?
We can certainly look at putting together a scorecard or some metrics, and some stuff is easier to measure than others. We certainly have attendance data that we can share, and looking at that. So yes, that's easy for us to accomplish.
Okay. Ms. Bond, did you have any comments? No? Okay. Ms. Monaco, yes. Mm-hmm.
I just want to comment that between both of you and all of you, the amount of work that you do is amazing, and we are very lucky to have you all doing this work for us, and we appreciate it. When you look at a document like this, it's almost overwhelming that even a group of people could accomplish so much. So thank you for doing it.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, so in conjunction with Sardo's comments, I'd like to also ask again, as we look at capturing metrics that we can currently, as we look at the next district plan for success, getting more SMART goal oriented and identifying those metrics in the district plan. So we have a plan to capture those and report them out as we make our way through it.
Yeah, no, the answer's the same. As I think you're looking for more measurable things to track, and we can come up with those. I think that's very easily done, and I think it's a very pertinent thing to request. So I think we can do that.
And acknowledge there's going to be areas where there's some just don't fit. It's not going to be a cut and dry, success or pass go, whatever kind of metric.
I also want to just point out that our planning for success
Document here is from 22 to 25. So this is the second of 3 years in this particular plan. So for people who are looking at, there's certainly a lot of things that are in progress, or if we start doing more metric scorecards, these goals were set for a 3-year period, and we're clearly making progress in a lot. There's a lot of, for anyone who can't see the document, there's a lot of checked off that we've met many of these things. So I just wanted to give that some context. And I mean, there are some things I'm hoping to get a little more, data on as we go forward. I believe that I read that the portrait of a graduate has been completed, and I'd love to have that presented to us. I was glad to hear about the idea of doing curriculum pilots before doing them district-wide, because I think that's something that many districts have learned, and it's important. And it's important for the teachers, because they need the time and the support to develop, and then they can show their colleagues and that kind of thing. So I think that's really helpful. I'd be interested in knowing in the future, unless Ms. Lamprey knows it tonight, if all of our teachers are now have their SEI endorsements. That's for teachers who have students who are learning English in their classrooms. It's a really massive mandate by the state that all teachers have that endorsement. And is that something we're making progress on? And there's a yes over there that you can't see on the camera. Good. So I wanted to see about that. And I don't know if you have any immediate feedback, but I've been telling people a lot about our simultaneous translations through Lexicate, which we've been doing for a while, and also now the ability to use Parent Square to communicate directly being translated directly into the family's language that the family has indicated they want. And I'm wondering, on the teacher's end, are you hearing that the teachers are like, I'm still trying to learn, or wow, this is easy, or is there a report on that? 2 sentences now, or is that something I'd be interested in hearing about later? Ms. Lamprey's thinking about if she want to answer tonight.
No, I mean, just I don't have the numbers here, but anecdotally, people are feeling like they're able to contact parents more than they have in the past, more equitably, right? So they're able to reach out to all parents because there are these support systems in place. We also gave all teachers the opportunity to be able to reach out directly. So in last year and previous years, in order to get an interpreter, for example, they had to go through the main office and set one up. And so obviously that, presented a bit of a barrier, but this year teachers all have direct access to be able to reach out and set up those appointments themselves or get an on-demand interpreter in a spur of a moment situation. Because it's more readily accessible, the usage has increased and teachers are able to connect more directly with families.
Great. It sounds like it's easier for them to use, therefore hopefully more comfortable. That's great.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. I also noticed in reviewing some of the things that we didn't necessarily talk about tonight that I'd love to, in the future, get some updates on plans for the life skills programming at the middle school and the high school. I know the new high school building project could impact that a lot. I'm hoping it will. So I lived through a transition from an old to a new building teaching a life skills program, and the difference from me having a microwave and a plug-in electric skillet to do life skills to moving to a new classroom with a kitchen was just spectacular. So I'm hoping that we can get there in the next few years. And I'd also be interested in hearing the data and review of the EYS, of the extended year services for our students and how that's going. So not tonight, but I would be interested in getting those kinds of things. So those were my particular questions. And I want to reiterate what Ms. Monaco said. Thank you to everyone for all of the work that's being done. It's really quite remarkable, all of what you're doing. So thank you. Yes, Ms. Monaco?
I think that sometimes people don't understand the degree to which we have a really great team working here. And I think it's important for us to point it out, because if you look at what goes on in other districts and other communities, we are a lucky group of people to have all of you working here.
All right, Dr. Conti, shall we move on to Dr. Chen's entry report?
I think that'd be wonderful. So, again, thank you, Lisa.
No, thank you. And to my coworkers, if you'd like to sit back, you can, or you can still join me up here. I leave it to whatever you would like to do. I can see all of you guys leaving. Peace out, Chen. You're on your own.
Thank you again for your time late in the evening. Really appreciate it.
Anyhow, I had put on the website that I was going to report on my entry plan, and a lot of my entry plan, before it was finalized, I asked Dr. Conti to take a look at it to make sure it was consistent with the success plan and moving in the right direction. And so there were 3 goals. Goal 1 was relationships and communications. I've outlined the ones I've met and the ones in progress. I would still like to meet with more student leadership organizations at the elementary and middle school because student voices are very important. While I have met the Interfaith Council, I still would love the opportunity to attend either some of the mosques or the synagogues around here just to explore that a bit more. And I'm always looking for opportunities to celebrate student work in the community and that of the school and community members. We started that with Journey to Cares, but I would like to do more, some BCAT, some news stories and some news pods as well too, just to talk about all the great things that are occurring and the internships, externship, the math programs. So there's a little bit more I'd like to do. The next goal that I was taking a look at was student success. One of the things that we are still doing, and it's an ongoing process, is taking a look at all the curriculum and making sure that we have the same philosophy when it comes to assessments in general, when it comes to formative and summative assessments, and when it comes to also taking a look at how do we use the data, and are we using a consistent protocol to looking at the data. And so that is something that it's still in progress as we're looking through all the curriculum reviews. If you were to flip on to the next page, I still very much would love to talk more to the students just to learn about how are their feelings about the academic rigor, particularly in their classrooms. That's still information that I still want to continue to gather. It's ongoing. And right now, I'm in the process of taking a look at all the transitions as they're occurring. Like right now, there's a big transition from 8 to 9, and we're looking at the math and how do we make sure that the parents get all the information that are needed to make sure whether or not they want to place their children either in Algebra 1 honors or in regular Algebra 1 or even to skip geometry. So that is ongoing. And then I know that the Director of Special Education and the Assistant Director of Special Education are working on taking a look, and this is coming down the pipeline, of a program review on all their programs. They've come up with a description, which I appreciate, on all their programs, but they're putting together what they would like to do, a program review on every single program that we have that is a special education. So that's something that I would really like to read that report. I know they're in the process of doing that. So that's why that's in progress. And then if you were to flip, the next one, number 21 and 22, that one is in progress because I'm continuously seeking input from Dr. Conti, the instructional team directors, principals, and teachers to review documents. You know, just once you've done one review of documents doesn't mean that it ends there. And then also, we're in the process of taking a look at our school improvement plan. I've heard from at least three school committee members tonight about looking at a scorecard, looking for more information when it comes to our data. So that's something that we're going to take a look at when we're doing our next planning for success or mid-year or midterm. So that's something that we're going to be working on. Goal 3 was organizational alignment and capacity. And the one thing that I'm working with Dr. Conti on is on the job description for our person who is going to be working with diversity, equity, inclusion. But one thing that I've learned from our consultant is that the equity work is for all of us to do. It's especially important in the work that I do with my team, which is in curriculum instruction and assessment. And it is about ensuring that all students have a pathway, that they're not stuck in one place, that they have multiple avenues to exceed to the best that they can. And so a lot of the equity work is embedded a lot in the instruction work. And so that is something that when we're thinking about the roles and responsibilities of what this person's going to look like, it's going to touch a lot upon instructional strategies. So that's something that we're continuing to look on. But I really want to take this time really just to thank everyone that I've had an opportunity to develop relationships with, to sit down, have conversations with. My door is always open. I think it was through these conversations that I had during the summertime and now that helped me, and in looking at the data, put the emphasis first on math and then on literacy, because I heard from folks about needing to make sure that there was more consistency when it comes to looking at what goes on pre-K through 12 and math. So I think that a lot of these conversations were extremely helpful. Thank you so much to the president over there, CPAC, also with meeting you and your team to give me your perspectives on what I can do to help out with special education and students who are on IEPs or looking on the child studies. So my door is always open. I'm always looking for feedback. So again, I just wanted to thank this community for allowing me the opportunity to be your assistant superintendent for learning. And it's been an honor thus far, and it's been a lot of fun. And I look forward to working with this team and under the leadership of Dr. Conti, and I've enjoyed it thus far, and I'm learning a lot. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We're enjoying having you here, Dr. Chen. Appreciate that. And again, for people who don't have this booklet in front of them, people may remember when Dr. Chen came in, she gave us a very extensive entry plan, and most of the things are checked off that she's met them. She's really been thorough and expansive and across the district and across all of the stakeholders. So we want to thank you for everything you've done so far in this, half a year. So we really appreciate it.
And then the other thing I wanted to share with folks, if you were to take a look, that they don't have access to the document, but we've also done, Dr. Conti and I worked with our team to break it down, especially with English language learners, the mental health. That's part of whether or not we met, we didn't meet, or we're in progress. And we also did that with special education. We did that with all of our particular departments. And this document in itself, after tonight, it will be made public. It will be posted. We can also send it out however you wish to send it out. But one of the things that we've worked on to do with Parent Square is that we've also worked to create a Facebook page, and we've also worked to create a Twitter account. So whatever is shared can be shared out to many, many different people. And this will also be posted on the website as well, too, next to my entry plan about the progress that's being made. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any comments before we move on to the next topic? I'm looking to see if there's a hand up. There is not. Okay. So, Dr. Conti, if we could move on to the next topic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just wanted to, through the policy subcommittee, we had a conversation with Janelle Austin from Kopelman and Page regarding a flagpole policy. While there had been a long-standing practice in place, the advice was that we should sort of formalize that practice. So what was given to you in front of you, which I wanted you to look at for a first reading, is some language that codifies the practice that has been in place. So it was in your packet. I hope the committee had a chance to review that. I certainly would answer any questions about it, but my hope is at our next meeting, you can approve this policy as a second reading, and that would help my staff manage the any future requests that come in for the flagpoles themselves.
Okay, are there any questions about the policy? That okay, then we'll have the second reading and the vote at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before moving on, there was something that sort of came up at the last minute. We had some wrestlers qualify for a tournament in Concord, New Hampshire this weekend. So I just would request the school committee approve out-of-state travel. I have the list of the wrestlers, but going to Concord, New Hampshire.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none.
Have fun.
Yes, have fun. Good luck. And so, Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Massardo?
Aye.
Mr. Brooks? And the chair votes aye. We're sending you off with best wishes to this wrestling tournament. And I know Dr. Conti wishes he could go with you.
That's right.
What, you mean you're not?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know we spent a long time, and I'll try to move forward, but really this part of the agenda, we had tried something last year that seemed to be well received by Ways and Means, by capital budget, and by town meeting, is instead of waiting on the capital warrant items till after the operating budget when everything seems sort of rushed, we wanted to introduce the capital warrants now. in introducing them early. We still don't have a firm number yet from the town. So Mr. Moran, we may need to reduce some. Again, when we get that number, we'll certainly work towards it. That's our commitment. But if we wait till we have everything, it's always so soon before town meeting that it's a problem. And Bob, I think you've done a great job providing backup, but this isn't all the backup that you would that you're planning on providing. So I just wanted to frame that agenda item.
And Dr. Conte, I just want, Mr. Brooks, did you want to ask a question before Dr. Conte continues?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers we're referencing right now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's a list of the fiscal 25 potential school capital warrant articles. So we'll read as we come to each.
We're gonna
Oh,
email
he's
it
going to put
now.
it up, okay.
Again, Mr. Brooks,
Thank
that's
you.
my fault. I didn't realize you were going to be remote, or we'd have it all for you. So it's coming in right now.
Oh, here. Do you need one?
There you go.
You got it, so.
Yep. Bob, did you have a digital copy?
Okay. All right, so are we on to Dr. Conti or to Mr. Puna? Oh, he's sending it digitally, okay.
Sure. So again, I talked about the process, and again, so this is not all the data that you'll see or the information or background that you see in the warrant articles, but it is what we are proposing moving forward, and there are some placeholders that we can discuss. So.
Oh, my God.
Can I ask a quick question while we're doing this? Or-
Yes, Ms. Massena.
I think last year we saw like the wish list and then we saw what was pared down. Is this the wish list or is this the pared down?
Again, Bob can answer that. I think it's a little bit of both because we don't have a firm number yet from town.
Okay.
So we are guessing. So there might be some wish in this, but it's not the full 10-year capital plan that we can get to you as we are moving forward. So this is sort of what we believe that we need moving forward. But as soon as we get the dollar amount, again, from Ways and Means and from the town finance, then we'll try to match that number.
Okay, I think also we had seen like every request. Like, is this is every single, like, zero things for Fox Hill?
You'll see every request for staffing. Did you see every request for capital as well?
I thought we saw like a that everyone had requested, and then you had pared that down already, because I know things that fell off last year that I was kind of expecting to see this year that I don't see. Like the cafeteria tables at Fox Hill was the one thing that is springing to my mind. But I wasn't sure if this, if they have to ask again or.
They would need to ask
Okay.
again, but some
Okay.
of that stuff would fall off with the project that we were moving forward. So maybe there's a different priority. Bob, I can't answer that question. I don't really.
Yeah, so again, I can't speak through the chair, I'm sorry, but I
Yes,
cannot
Mr.
speak
Cunha.
for the principals and their priorities, but what I can say is that communication has happened between myself and the principals and department heads and directors and so forth to see what their requests are for this current year. So if somebody, chooses to drop something from
Okay.
last year,
Yeah.
given that opportunity, that's something that we do consider. What you are seeing here is what I would call a want, a need, and a wish list all in one.
Okay.
So we haven't taken anything out.
Okay.
As Dr. Conti mentioned, we don't have a number yet from the town, and we don't have a priority. So what you see tonight is not in my priority, and it's not in Dr. Conti's priority or in the principals or directors' priorities. We also I have not associated any numbers to these yet. Do I have some ballparks? Yes. It's just not fair to me to give you half the picture when I don't have the full document. So this is an introduction. We'll go and we'll talk and we'll discuss some of these, all of these, as much as you choose. And when it is time in the next meeting, I will provide some more documents. I will also commit to continuing to use the town's form. So we will present that as well too for any full warrant article request that will be on the town's warrant article request form. Of course, you know, we will have these conversations with Ways and Means, capital budget, you know, of course, with your support, what to move forward with and what not to. Any questions before we jump into this, or?
Well,
I see some-
I think it's an important question, and I think that I'm hearing you say that you're not the principal of Fox Hill, but you would have put in a request for cafeteria tables. And it's true that we have a project to replace all the cafeteria tables now under discussion and under development. But I think it's important that we, if there was a way we could, you know, buy that furniture now and not need to buy that furniture as part of the new Fox Hill. I mean, could we be creative if, and this is just an example because it was brought up, but
It was on last year's
okay,
list.
so it was on last year's, and so can we be creative in making sure, because we know that Fox Hill's in bad shape. So I want to not invest in a building that we may not be using in the next few years, but I also want to be sure that we have what we need in the meantime. And Mr. Cunha, you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, I should have commented earlier and specifically on this particular item, but I chose to avoid it a little bit. And now I will comment. So in regards to the Fox Hill tables, our in-house maintenance department did buy in materials as far as edge banding, new tables and seat tops. So if you actually go to Fox Hill, you will see that a majority of the tables have been upgraded. Again, not brand new, not perfect, but what we did is we replaced any broken seats, any edge banding, which is the black material that goes around the edge that would either catch your skin, catch any clothing. That's been replaced. Any tabletops have either been sanded down and refinished or replaced. Now, again, kids cause damage, you know, tomorrow, the next day. So we're trying to stay on top of that, but we're trying to use the resources and materials that we have in-house as opposed to buying new equipment. So we've been able to kind of push that one a little bit just due to that in-house work.
Well, and I think that's great. And I also think that's an example of how we've maintained our buildings over the last few decades, that we do take good care. And, you know, that's a great strategy to use. So I'm not, you know, so do you want to add anything, Ms. Massardo?
My understanding was the request was for a different style. So yes, I understand. I appreciate that we fixed the broken ones. Again, I'm not trying to fight for this one thing. I just know it was on there last year, so I was trying to understand the process. So if somebody didn't get something last year, they would have to re-request it this year, and we're not sure if we're seeing this is every single thing that was asked for, or this is not every single thing that was asked for.
It's every single
Mr.
thing that was asked
Cunha.
for this year
Okay.
in the communications that I've had with
Okay.
principals and directors.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Monaco?
Yeah, I just want to make the point that each school will have requests, has already had requests. Maybe they'll have more. But I'm assuming this document is a compilation of what you've received from each school. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so now, moving ahead.
So again, no priority, but the first one on the list is for Pine Glen, and it is the air conditioning second phase funding of the project. There's a brief description under there. This started as a $500,000 warrant article. We have spent approximately $20,000, just under $20,000 for engineering documents, leaving us with about $481,000. The project is expected to cost $775,000. So again, that's the math and the difference that we'll be asking for. Approximately $300,000. Again, I'll give you the exact numbers, but I just want to get you all in the ballpark for tonight's conversation. Also at Pine Glen, we are asking to replace some of the fencing out front. So where the basketball court is in the teacher parking lot, I don't know the age of it, but I can tell you the fence that's there is old. It's rusted. It's been damaged multiple times, and we've Band-Aided it back together as much as we can. It definitely in need of replacement, and that's in multiple places. So It's about 180 feet of fence that we're looking to replace in Pine Glen. You'll see a few for Burlington High School. The first one is HVAC pumps. So please remember, we have 11 penthouses just on this building alone, and each penthouse has at least 2 condensers, 2 pumps, let's say 6 valves. I mean, it's almost a small little house up there. These penthouses are probably 20 by 20 and 2 floors, right? So the bad part about that is that when something goes, we typically need a crane to access that area, not for our crews or any vendors that come in, but when you have a $500-pound pump, there's really no way to carry it on your back across the roof. So that does drive the cost up. Again, because there's 11 penthouses that cater to this whole entire building, we're not talking residential units, just the sheer size of this equipment is large. So you'll see that the costs, are generally expensive, and then add on the crane service needed to get onto the roof, drives the cost up. So what you're seeing in front of you, again, I'll get you the numbers exactly later on, but this would be to bring 3 less than ideal functioning penthouses up to speed. So that means we definitely have identified failed areas in there. Most of these have fail over or dual units. So when we're running on one, we can get by for a little bit, but to expect to get into a whole nother heating or cooling season on one, no, it's not something that we can do. So the next one is retube the boilers.
Mr. Cunha, just a second. Dr. Conti had a comment. Mhm.
Bob, one of the things that came up at the bargaining table was the history hall. Is one of these penthouses would help that situation?
Yep. It's definitely one of the ones that we know is an issue, and this summer in particular, into the warm spring, into the summer, and into the fall, we were struggling on one unit, and we tried to maintain as much as we could in-house, but we couldn't, so.
Okay, so shall we, next one, okay?
Yeah, again, the next one's a boiler retube.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. Is this the second or the third time we've retubed the boilers since I've been here?
The only time that I remember
Yeah.
a boiler retube is
Yeah.
around 2010.
Yeah, well.
The thing is that every single year,
Yeah.
we have to take the boilers open. We have to have a state inspector come in,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's somewhere between 300 and 400 tubes inside these boilers. So during that inspection, any repairs that need to happen are required to happen.
Yeah, well, it's
So-
definitely happened in the 9 years I've been here, and I think I heard it was the second or third retubing, and so obviously it's an ongoing process, and it's frustrating. But yes, go ahead. I jumped
Right.
in on you there.
So I'm going to say that again. What I'm aware of for the time frame is that there has been partial retubes or partial repairs to the boilers, which I would fall under the typical maintenance category. That being said, anytime we see during these reports, we have the option to either repair that tube or plug that tube, and then what happens is we lose efficiency, right? So it may not be worth it to repair one tube, so it's easy to plug it. When it gets to a point where there's either more repair needed or more plugs, that's the ballpark that we get into now. So do our boilers run? Yes. Are our boilers perfect? No, they're original to the building and they are running. But we're at a point that we need to be cautious of it. And even if we were to get funds in May, please realize that we're talking at least 8 or 9 months before this work is going to happen. So it's just something that we need to be cautious of. If I move on to the next one, and again, any questions, please stop me. Electric forklift. So we have a forklift here at the high school, and I'm sure some people would wonder, why do we need a forklift? It's a 370,000 square foot building that has 4 floors of elevation. Not only that, we also use this building as the main shipping hub for all of our distribution. So anything from, floor cleaner to supplies to books to paper, right, comes here, right? So once it comes here, it definitely needs to be distributed. Now, carrying a package up to the top of the hill isn't a big deal. Carrying a 50-pound package or 20 boxes of paper does become a big deal. So we definitely use that, and we've had put the one that we have through its paces. We've had the town look at it. We've had companies look at it. And again, we're on our last leg with that. So the next one is high school fiber connection to varsity field. So what this is pretty straightforward. We have a wireless connection to varsity field. And off of varsity field, we have 6 cameras. And we have a internet connection over there. And we also have a police drop box. The police drop box is hardwired. But as far as emergency communications and cameras, we definitely would like to have a more reliable connection. And the higher the images get quality-wise, the more data that we need out there. So not to mention anytime we have any events on the field, whether it's BCAT, graduation, any sporting events, and we want to broadcast any of those situations, using a hardwired connection would be more reliable for us. Next, this is one that you have seen before, but this is a different reiteration of this. So this is music room flooring at the high school, and for 2 rooms. So this is portable staging actually, and this is actually authorized as a substitute. So what would happen is you would have adjustable staging customized to fit in that space. And it would not be a permanent structure, but it would be soundproof. And then I'm going to say potentially, because how long we keep it, but we could use it in other places. So the ideal for this would be to buy the temporary staging, the soundproof surfaces, use them in the rooms, and if something were to happen in this building and anytime soon, we could use those in a different situation. We use staging in many places, and we're not talking construction staging. This is actually performance staging that we could use in auditoriums, outside, on, for graduation, for many things like that.
The cost is, I'm sorry, through the chair?
Yes.
The cost is much lower than the $450,000 proposal that we repurposed.
Correct.
So if I could then clarify, I don't think you said it explicitly, but this staging would then allow these rooms to become accessible? Is that the point of it?
That is the point.
Okay.
That's been the point behind the whole entire request from the music department, is to
Right.
make the rooms more accessible.
Accessible. Okay, thank you. And plus, it would add soundproofing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The next one is a central office specific request. So there's 11,000 square feet just in central office, minus the bathrooms. And it'd be looking to replace carpeting in most of those areas. The reason I say most is in the past 4 years, we have upgraded or replaced carpeting in some specific offices, but only 5 offices. And they're the smaller offices, of course. So things like the hallway, things like the room that we're in, have 20-year-old carpeting. And we're seeing that the wear and tear, the resistance is just not up to standard. So it's something that we want to look to address.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ms. Massardo? Yeah.
Can we have what's the rough total number at this building? Like 1 million, 2 million? I'm asking because we just got done saying we're not intending to invest in Fox Hill, and there's an awful lot of money that we look like we're investing in this building, and this section could probably be the first to go, and we want to put new carpet in. I totally get music room flooring that we could reuse, tentative on the varsity field connection, and the forklift is fine, but this HVAC stuff and carpet in this wing on a school that's on a shorter time that could be right behind Fox Hill is going to be a hard sell.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes,
Again,
Mr. Cuny.
introduction right now, definitely. Respectfully, I maybe would disagree with your assessment of the HVAC one, because even if we were to build a building similar to Fox Hill, I can't assume that we would have a new building ready in 3 to 5 years. And the last thing I would want to see is any heat or air conditioning majorly impacted. But again, that's just my opinion. So.
Okay. All right. Ms. Monaco?
I think it's important to keep up the buildings. I mean, I don't see that this building is going to be gone in the foreseeable future anyway. But that also may apply to some of the other schools. And for instance, if the tables at Fox Hill and the cafeteria are that bad, and I don't know that they are, I have two little guys over there, but they haven't mentioned the tables. If they are, there's really no reason we couldn't get some furniture and then use it in another school when we have the new stuff for Fox Hill. But to not take good care of the central office, I think, would be a big mistake.
Mr. Brooks?
Sorry, a little mute issue there. Yeah, so I'm just, kind of echo some of the points that have been brought up here. I'm having a little trouble, contextually with this because we don't really have it in any prioritization. So, required, essential, enhancing, we're just kind of going down all of them, and just make a little more sense if we're talking in very vague generalities here with no overall dollar amount. So it's really hard to put this in context for, any sort of action or really, just having a meaningful discussion on it.
So maybe we should just continue going through the list. Of course, if people have comments,
They can add that. Oh, Ms. Bond?
No, I was just going to say, again, we're questioning the list that Mr. Kuhn is going over and questioning why things aren't on there. But the way I understood it is he's communicated with the principals of the schools, and he's put on the list what they've requested. So I understand questioning why certain things aren't on there, but if they didn't request something, it's not on the list. Am I understanding that right?
Mr. Cuna?
You didn't bump things off, right?
I did not bump
Right.
anything off.
Right.
Without any discussion.
We're questioning why things aren't on here, but it's not on here because the principals didn't ask.
Yep,
That's
that
the way I
was my
understand it.
question.
Ms.
Is this the
Musardo?
full list
Yeah.
or not? And that I'm totally fine if it's not on here. I was just asking since I knew things were from last year. But the things that are on the list, in terms of some of these BHS, and again, like Jeremy said, without a dollar value or priority, it's hard to know. But I think some of these are going to be a tough sell at town meeting, given where we are with the high school. Please continue.
Okay. Mr. Cuney, you want to continue?
Sure.
Thank you.
Francis Wyman, so that we're looking at a generator replacement over there. Again, we do have electrical contracts. We have an in-house electrician, so we try to maintain everything as much as we can within our means. My understanding of this, again, I don't have a date on it. This is prior to the renovation, or at least part of the renovation, so that puts us about 95, 96. Again, it's when you get into generators this size, you're basically talking like a tractor engine. So there's only so many times you can rebuild X parts, put new parts on it, X so forth. And then the whole block has to be replaced. And at that point, it's easier to buy a whole new unit than it is to strip all the materials off and rebuild. And again, it's essential to the safety, obviously, of the students and the staff in that building. So the next one would be the Marshall Simons bathrooms and locker rooms. Let me put these two together, but obviously we would look at them as two separate units. So in particular, locker rooms and some of the bathrooms, when I say some, obviously anything that's in the new wing or in the new administration wing has been upgraded. But in the cafeteria, the locker rooms, the A and B hallways, and the C hallways, those bathrooms were not touched during the renovation. So those are, I don't want to say original to the building, but at least prior to 2012, and then probably 15 or 20 years prior to that. So the reason you're seeing this request is now is that, again, we have a 12-year-old renovated building and older equipment than that, and I'm sure you all can imagine what 900 middle school students do to a bathroom over time. So the reason that the locker room renovation is part of this is because, again, the bathrooms were not upgraded during the renovation, but also the locker rooms themselves have taken on a whole new role as far as either when the building was built or when the building was renovated. People still partake in physical education classes, but a lot less partake in, obviously, showering or using the locker rooms themselves. So the thing is that there's a lot of valuable space in those that can be converted to teaching spaces, fitness centers, additional bathrooms. So it's an opportunity for us to relook at those and reimagine, some of that space utilized in a better way. So if I can jump on to the next one, it's critical building systems. So there's a couple systems that we, deem critical at every building. So one is going to be fire alarms, smoke alarms. Another one is going to be the HVAC systems. And then in this particular one is a sensor, right? So there's a refrigerant sensor that actually needs to be installed. That's not physically there now. Again, it's not dangerous per se. It's just more something that we're not limited. So anything like Freon that runs through a machine, the state says that we need to detect that, and we're not currently detecting that. While we do have ventilation in the system and the boiler rooms are detached, as far as the educational space, it's still something that we need to legally bring up to speed. Other things that have been identified in security meetings and conversations is smoke alarms on the doors. So there's, I believe, 13 doors in that building that do not have smoke arms. So in the event of a fire, don't shut. So that's a fail on us that we definitely need to correct. And then again, HVAC systems and so forth, because we have a building management system that has been upgraded and changed over time and then replaced and then upgraded and parts on the roof. What happens is there's a mismatch of some of the timing and communications in that building and the way it reports back to not only our door system, to our HVAC system, to our building system, including any sensors that are in the ductwork, hallways, and so forth. We just need to have that looked at and checked, and we've had some estimates on that and time-wise, and it's not just 1 or 2 hour visits. It's a bigger project. If I could move on to the next one. The next two, I don't have as much detail to say on both of them, except I could get some help from maybe Mr. Brooks on the second one. So the lab furniture replacement, again, there's a couple of areas in middle school that also was not upgraded during the renovation, and that's mostly in the C corridor. And you'll see what happens if you look in some of those spaces is that the furniture is outdated, the layouts of electrical and so forth are outdated. So we're not asking for a layout for electrical because we can do that in-house, but we're really looking to modernize that space with new furniture in there. So I'm working with Dr. Purchase, to see what those numbers look like and get some of the finalized layouts. So again, that's definitely something I'll have to report back later. The next one, security communications, has been a big talk for a while, but in months in particular, in regards to a couple of things. Our department heads and principals are asking for more walkie-talkies. We're also looking to connect at least 2 of our walkie-talkies for our SRO, student resource officers. While they have walkie-talkies, police walkie-talkies right now, the missing gap that we don't have is that they carry 2 walkie-talkies, where if we can get 1 walkie-talkie and put them on multiple channels, it would be a lot better for communication, especially since our SROs go in between buildings. So it's funny that they may have to leave a walkie-talkie at the middle school, and then when they go to Pine Glen, pick up a different walkie-talkie. It's just a missed opportunity for us. In addition to, again, Mr. Brooks is online, we're looking at a Wi-Fi in a box is a simple explanation for it, but it's a lot broader than that. We're looking at emergency communications, largely in the event of something horrible, but shortly for the event of, let's say somebody hits a pole or a tree falls down and we just lose connection somewhere. We need the ability to have communications, again, anything from loss of power to a flood to something horrible. And again, we lack that. We have, again, limited walkie-talkies, but usually when something bad happens or even in a snowstorm, right, you don't have full cell phone communication. And this is definitely something that we're looking to bridge that gap in conjunction with the police department as well. So again, without the full information, this may be something that we're asking for the police to support, or they are asking the school committee to support. So next one is a maintenance vehicle. So the current van that we have right now is from 2015. That is fine. So we'd probably be looking for that one either to be replaced or upgraded maybe in 5 years. What we're looking to do right about now is bring a second one on. We have 5 full-time employees that are maintaining, 780,000 square feet of building, right? And they're constantly driving around back and forth to buildings. And, while we have tools, they are using their own cars. And sometimes, it's great to not have to pack your car up every single day to then go to a job site. Like I said, we can do it once, but it'd be great if we could do it with a second vehicle, and we'd like to put it on the off cycle of the one that we currently have. If before you ask, we do actually have a second vehicle, but that second vehicle is dedicated for transportation in between, deliveries in between buildings, right? So while it could be used for maintenance, it's actually used to bring checks around, bring supplies around. Like I said, we have our main distribution here in the high school. So anything from rock salt to curriculum all has to go in between the buildings every single day, right? So again, that one will stay in use. And then what we're looking at is one for the maintenance department. The last one in front of you is curriculum. And again, I'm low on information to share with you. It's just that I know that I've been told that I'm waiting for some more information on it, and we are in need of some curriculum materials and supplies. And so again, it's even tough for me to give you a definitive number yet because I don't have the quotes. But this is an expectation of what you should have. What you should be looking for in the next couple of weeks, and I will work my hardest to make sure that you have a lot more backup, a lot more pricing, some priorities, and then I look forward to more conversations of these requests.
So, Dr. Conti?
No.
Oh, Ms. Bond?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if we can go back to the fencing replacement for Pine Glen.
Yeah.
What's damaging the fencing? Because I want to make sure if we're replacing it that we protect it from whatever damage is occurring so we don't end up in the same situation. Or is it just regular wear and tear? You sounded like there was something that's been damaged 3 times or whatever the number was you said, right?
Yeah. Most of it is wear and tear and rust, but definitely some have been damaged during the winter months. So probably by larger equipment, snow plows.
So there's not a way to place it back a little farther, or does it have to be placed in a certain place? I'm just trying to think of if we're going to replace that, if we approve it or it gets approved. Could we do something to protect it better so we're not in the same situation?
I think that it depends on the amount of snow that we get per year, right? If we get a small couple of inches, maybe 2 feet max over 3 months, we don't really have that issue. If we were to get a foot, at some point you have 10-foot snowbanks. The places that we're talking about are in the front of the property. So what happens is from the street side, you have street, sidewalk, 4 feet of grass, fence, 4 feet of grass, parking lot. It's pretty tough for us not to have it, but it's pretty important that we do have that because it's a place where students play. So if students were to be playing basketball, running around Foursquare, having that barrier between the parking lot and the street is a necessity. So that's, again, why we continue to maintain it and put Band-Aids on it, but also why it can't just be in disrepair because of the safety of the students.
Thank you.
Are there other members who?
Yeah, Jeremy has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Chair. So a quick question here. We have a standing agenda item on the for Pine Glen. We've talked about it several times. Ms. Monaco has brought it up, and I kind of noticed we don't have a feasibility study in here for Pine Glen. So just seeing if we're going to put that in as well.
Ms. Monaco?
Yeah, it's funny you should bring that up.
I said during the whole building project discussion that I would ask each and every year if we could put a feasibility study on for Pine Glen. I tend to think that it's a little soon, but I'm asking if you can at least give some thought to putting a feasibility study on. And if we don't, if it's not the right time, then I'll ask again next year.
Mr. Cuna?
Yeah, through the chair. Again, if it's your request or if it's the committee's request, I will put it on. You all have to support it, and hopefully you will, and you'll have those conversations. So these are your requests as well. So I will get some information on that. I'll present that to you all as a option.
Okay.
And then you all can make your own decisions as to which ones are preferable.
Dr. Conti, did you want to add something?
I do. Bob, you're going to talk about the last item coming up?
I will. Yep.
The field?
Okay, so we're not through with the list yet. Okay.
Right. If
So before we go on, my comment about all of them is that I think you've had some very good explanations and descriptions and information, and I think that's really helpful for us. And I also think that's really helpful for town meeting, and I know you'll write that up for them. And I think that's been a big help going forward. And Mr. Moran, did you want to comment on that too?
I actually had a question about the safety features.
Okay.
So like the firearms that are missing on Francis Wyman doors?
Smoke arms, not firearms.
Oh, sorry, smoke arms, yes. Yes, sorry for that.
Sorry.
The smoke arms that are missing on there, there's obviously a safety feature. Like was this identified, and are there other like gaps in safety that need to be addressed? Like what is that process that you use to identify that?
So a couple of things. We have building inspections yearly. We have fire inspections yearly. We also work closely with the fire department, police department, building department for security reviews. We also have, again, an in-house electrician and a contract for electrical service as well, too. And we also have a contract for our security vendor that helps with our automation and door services and fire alarm systems. So again, we have multiple people, vendors, companies looking at this for review. On paper, it's not a requirement given that the age of the building and where we're at, we technically could not put them in, and we could be okay under the law. That being said, it's a missed opportunity that I think we could have done during the renovation, and I definitely think it's something that we should do now because it's been addressed. Again, what happens is at that building, 900 kids walking through the hallway, the door gets propped open a lot, but in an emergency, what happens is people forget to unprop it. And it's been identified, of course, through either some of our drills that take place, but we also just notice it on the day-to-day basis. It's less likely that we see that at elementary schools, kids propping doors and so forth, but at middle school we see it from students, staff, so that's why it's a higher importance to us.
Thank you.
Okay, all set. Good. So are there any questions on the item so far? All right. So now there is another item.
Yep. So as you all should be aware, we have a 600-page document with the master plan for the fields. I do want to update that now it's close to 1,000-page. So since the last time we spoke, there were 7 additional fields that we had worked with the rec department to address and add to the plan. So again, we have a almost 1,000-page master plan report, which does look at athletic fields and for the next 10 years. You'll see that on number 1 priority was the baseball field, which town meeting and you all supported for last year. That should be going out to bid in the next few weeks, and we're looking at a late July, August timeframe as to when we're going to work on that, because we want to get the baseball season in, hit the target growing area and demolition area, and then be able to have a whole winter, fall, winter, spring before we get into our new baseball season for the upcoming year. Number 2 on that, and again, working with recreation, working with members of the community, athletics director, and what we've decided based on the 10-year plan is that the middle school is also in need, and there's 2 reasons why. One is the turf field and the track that's over there. This is year 10, and we're coming up on it. So we're a few months away from it, but yeah, year 10 is coming up pretty close. So that being said, is just like the varsity field at year 10, is the turf junk? No. but it's something that we need to be aware about, right? Because what happens is that it gets impacted, it gets worn down. We've noticed some defects, obviously, in the track. And again, this is also something that we have inspections on and we maintain. We do reports on it to make sure that it's not getting too hard. We make sure that it's filtrating and draining. But we've also identified some weaknesses over there as well, too. So the building lacks accessibility from many places, one being from the school. The grass field that's around the turf and track, also the secondary grass field in the back, gets used a lot. It's our second most used field in Burlington behind Varsity Field, right? And both of those areas gets used, probably because it's great space, probably because there's lights over there. So the plan that's in front of you is rather large, right? So there's a couple of ways to look at it. One is looking at just the turf. One is looking at the turf and the track. One is looking at turf, track, and then the grass field, right? Now, if we were to look at that whole entire unit as a full facility, we would look at accessibility. How do we get from the school down without having to walk 1,500 plus feet down a non-accessible hill, right? How do we get out the back of the building, right? So from the building, we do have elevators that can get us down to the lower level, but then we get out to a lower level and can't get down to either the field or the track. So a larger plan in the multi-million-dollar scenario, again, I'll narrow that down later, but in a multi-million-dollar scenario, you would be looking at replacement turf, replacement track, accessible bleachers, accessible ramp system, and then maybe a new multi-purpose turf field in place of the grass. Now, I know that's a larger conversation, and obviously there are options to do, like I said, phases, parts of it, some of it, all of it. But again, please remember, second most used field in Burlington, lacking in accessibility, definitely in need of some upgrades. Time is ticking on it a little bit. So again, part of our master plan as number 2, and we got to look for the future of Burlington. So I think I can see Dr. Conti is looking to comment, or?
Yes, Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we first supported the field study, I think it was commented at town meeting, and it makes perfect sense that there was going to be cost later associated with the results of that field study. So I think this is what you're seeing. My belief, and I'll state this as an I statement, this is a community use space. I think we are working in partnership with Park and Rec. There's been joint meetings that have occurred. Again, Mr. Brooks has been the representative of this committee on there. I think Mr. Nelson has been the representative from Park and Rec, and I think Mr. Murphy has also participated as a community member. My point being, the need is there. There's a 10-year plan there. Lots of people benefit from this space, but I don't believe the project we have other needs for the school district. So if we get an allotment from the town, I don't believe we should be the sole funder of this project. So I don't mind putting it out there. I don't mind collaborating with everyone. I think that's the right way to go about doing this. But if this is a $4 million project, I don't want someone to say, then you can't get all the other safety things that you need. I think if the town wants to support the project, again, I think it is well thought out. I think it is prioritized, and I think it's would benefit many besides the school district. So that's why it's sort of a separate item here. But again, in the analysis of all of the fields, this is important work looking forward.
Yes. Does anyone else have a comment? Oh, Mr. Brooks, yes.
Yeah, just to add the context to conversation and speak to some of Dr. Conti's points. These discussions have been broached about how we go about doing a joint article, maybe splitting the funding, or like Bob said, doing it in a phased manner. So again, a little more discussion needs to be had on how we approach it, how many phases we do, and then who gets buy-in to garner that funding.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Massaro?
I agree. I'm happy to. I think these are certainly more of a community need and want, and I think town meeting is generally supportive of those. So I think it's good to take this stance. You're saying that the field report that I did almost to read all of is now 1,000 pages. Can we get a copy of that? And I know we've said it before, like we have the school building kind of audit and we call it a plan, and this was kind of like the field study audit. It has some priorities, but I still don't feel like 1,000-page document is the plan, right? So can we get like a summary, like a year one, year two? I know we've been asking and we've seen some drafts on the schools, but like at least the priorities, if we don't know, like, so just more of a community friendly with the joint between us and the rec, like this is the plan versus this is our 1,000-page document. Especially with if we're adding, I know we added some like the baseball fields, I think, and some stuff like that. I think the community would love to see that. I think you'd get more support for this if folks are seeing like, hey, this is how we're investing. I know the rec has done a good job of showing like, hey, this is how we're investing. This is our plan for Simons Park, all that stuff. So if we're showing that here's how we're investing in these different fields and these different areas, I think that would go a long way towards helping folks stomach the $4 million if it's part of a plan, and we know we're looking at another $4 million in 3 years. As the sooner we socialize those type of plans, the more that we can budget for them ahead of time, and the more people are comfortable with them.
Okay. Any further comments about this article? I do have a comment, and that is that I have supported the turf field at the high school and at the middle school, and I think there's a lot of reasons why we've installed turf fields in various places. We have such pressure to, and lack of space for fields in the town, both school-wise and community-wise. However, in the last 10 years, I've also become very aware that there are actually, the turf fields are much more problematic than I had thought. And I know we spent a lot of time, and Mrs. Russo did an incredible amount of research. We have really good safety policies for when to use the fields in heat, for example. But the fields appear to leach into the groundwater. They it's not clear at all when we replace the fields, where does that material get dumped? And creating more plastic waste and huge amounts of it. And so at this point, I would not vote for a new turf field at the middle school. And I know we're not at that stage. There's a lot of other pieces to it. But I think that's something we need to start really doing a lot of research. I know the Conservation Department has expressed a concern, I heard. So I think it's really important. We have to balance things, and we currently have 2 turf fields that we're using a lot, and it'd be really hard to go back to using grass there maybe. But we also have all these other issues that I think are coming up that we didn't necessarily know when turf first came out. So that's just a statement. We don't need to have a conversation unless somebody wants to add to that. But when I see a new turf field, I felt like I needed to say that, and hope that we can have conversations about that in the community and on this committee. So is that the end of this discussion of capital warrant articles?
It's the end of the introduction
For
of the
tonight.
capital warrant articles. Again, this was just meant to be an early start to the process, and you'll be getting more information, and as Bob said, more prioritization, and ultimately you all will decide what warrant articles you want to support and the priority of those warrant articles. So we can certainly add still at this point, and again, we'll be waiting for to get a firmer number from town, and then whether we meet that number or exceed that number again is up to the committee. So Bob, thank you for doing that. Again, we're purposely sort of shifting up the order of this given the feedback that we got last year.
Okay. All right. Mr. Pacuna.
Can I just ask one follow-up question? Can I get confirmation or a nod of heads that this committee wants me to pursue a feasibility study for Pine Glen?
So, okay, so it's a good question. Mrs. Monaco would like to have it. Do other people are interested? I am not. So let me just get a little, any sense of whether Ms. Bond seems interested, Mrs. Sardo?
I mean,
doesn't
I'm
have to
happy
be
to see it prioritized among this, sure.
And Mr. Brooks, do you have an initial?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to get a complete look at all the things, so we have a complete picture of what we're gonna vote on, and then we can prioritize and vote appropriately. So if there's, want or need to put things in, let's get it all in there, and then cut out the things we don't think will make the cut at town meeting.
Okay.
I mean,
Go ahead, Mr.
historically, we've just said 1.5 million for a feasibility study, so I don't want you to do a ton of work, right?
But
Right.
That's-
Again, through the chair, if you
Yeah.
all want to support that without any documentation or backup, that's great, but I still have to find a company that's willing to put their
Okay.
estimate on that. So, I mean, I can get that, I just need to make sure that that's.
All right, Ms. Monaco, it got more extensive than I thought. Go ahead.
Yes, I think it's important to explain that the Pine Glen is on the agenda for a reason. It needs to be kept up, it needs to be taken care of, and it needs to be on the front burner of everyone's mind. I said that I would ask for a feasibility study this year, next year, every year until it happens. And I think what's getting missed is that this is a project, when we're able to do it, that has to be driven not by individual members of the school committee, but by the school department, by the people that do all the work. So I'm bringing it up, and I'm saying to all of you, is this the time? Are we ready to do a feasibility study for Pine Glen? What is your recommendation? If your recommendation is yes, then we go for it. If your recommendation is no, it's not the right time yet, I'll bring it up again next year. But I don't think it should be school committee members with different opinions throwing a few dots here and there. I think it should be the recommendation of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, et cetera. And my job, as I see it, is to remind you each and every year that it should be done as soon as we can do it.
Got it.
So I would like a recommendation for us to go forward with, as opposed to us telling you what to do, because I don't think that's how this works.
I did not see it on the draft of the long-term plan, correct? There's no feasibility study for Pine Glen on that.
Are you asking Mr. Cuna?
I mean, I think that was on an agenda for an upcoming meeting, so maybe we can put both of those things together
it
for
should
the
be on a
next one.
long-term plan.
Right. Yeah, there's intention for it to be there. I will have to look at the document to see if it's
Okay.
actually there, but
Okay.
All
it
right.
should be on that. And if
Okay.
it's not, it will be added,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I
All right,
just can't answer.
and then I would add that my reaction tonight, I agree with Mrs. Monaco that it would be something that would be good to come from the school department. My concern is that I know it's probably $1.5 million, and I know that in the past we've gotten maybe $2 million for capital warrants, and so it would use up most of it. When we did the last one, we specifically made comments that Dr. Conti and Mr. Cuna came up with a plan of how and when and why we would ask for that, a specific amount of money. So, that's my reluctance to do it now. And so we can look at where it is in the long-term plan as well. And I also would be reluctant to have Mr. Cuna do a huge amount of work unless it was something that the district wanted to go forward with our support. Okay. And are there other comments on the capital warrant articles? Okay. So the next item, Dr. Conti, is an update on the Fox Hill School Building Committee.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. We had our feasibility presentation to the MSBA board. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. Was it last week? Wednesday.
Last Wednesday.
Sorry, losing track of the days. I think that the response I thought was positive towards the project. I thought Donna Danisco did a very good job presenting. I think the MSBA board members felt like the vision was educationally sound. So, never know how the board is going to vote, but I think the feedback was positive. And so I think it's the next step. And as people were saying, it's sort of the next sort of in the MSBA checklist. We got that check, and we have to continue to move onward. But it was a significant step that we accomplished, and I think we're waiting for official word back from MSBA.
As someone who attended that meeting, I also wanted to just report some of the comments because there were a lot of kudos for Burlington. First of all, Dr. Conti, I think, did a marvelous job, and Mrs. Monaco mentioned this earlier. He did a marvelous job describing our district and the educational culture here, and he noted our commitment to diverse learners and serving all students. I was really honored to be represented by you. Donna Donisko did a great job describing the project and answering their questions. And one of the MSBA staff early on said, much of what we look for in educational programs and building projects is already in place in the district. The MSBA member, who's an architect, said she loved the simplicity of the design work and the connections with the outdoors. And another MSBA board member, Terry Kwan, who's been here before, looking at the high school in the past, she commented on a number of items in our educational program that she thought were really top of the line. She said our use of tutors that are incorporated into the service delivery, not just as add-ons, since before the pandemic. I mean, this is something she mentioned that people have been talking about since COVID to do learning catch-up. And this is something that we have been doing that's integral to the way we provide education in Burlington. Ms. Kwan also mentioned our specialists like art, music, and PE being true partners with the instructional teams. She also gave us praise for our use of the science of reading for literacy instruction, including both phonics and the content knowledge or the reason for reading, and our ongoing professional development for teachers. And at the end, she said, and I want to really people to notice this, she said that our educational program should be used as a model for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in Massachusetts. And I think that says a lot for Dr. Conti and our staff and every single one of our teachers and all of the people who work here. So thank you. Are there other pieces of the Fox Hill building project that need updating? The next meeting?
Again, I know Bob Donna's been meeting with staff. I know she met with the lab staff on Friday, so I think she continues to meet with educators and is going to fine-tune that. And I'm sorry I'm blanking when the next meeting is. Ms. Massardo, I'm sort of...
It's the beginning of February.
So...
I have one for January 30th.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
January 30th, sorry.
Yeah.
January 30th.
It's like on the
at 6
February
o'clock.
section of my calendar.
January
Yeah.
30th
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock.
That last little tag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's true.
That it?
That's it for
Okay.
Fox Hill.
How about
And then the...
updates for the Burlington High School Building Committee, Dr. Conti? Ms. Bond?
Again, we're just continuing to work on the program document. Again, that's sort of the driving document from me and what takes the most amount of time. So we're continuing that work. And Ms. Bond, I'm not sure if there's any other update.
Yeah, we have the designer interview meetings this Thursday. So we'll listen to those on Thursday and then make a decision.
All right. And the Pine Glen agenda, we talked about the air conditioning going in this year. We talked about the possibility of a feasibility study. Dr. Conti, do you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
And Dr. Conti, do we have need for an executive session tonight?
No, we just had a placeholder there in case we had reached an agreement. So no, we have not yet. So
Okay.
no.
All right. So I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Okay. Ms. Bond?
Aye.
I'm sorry. Ms. Monaco? I'm looking the wrong way. I did.
Aye.
You heard me. Ms. Mazzardo, Mr. Brooks? The chair votes aye. We are adjourned.